This week on the Journal editorial report, President Obama moves to limit the NSA's surveillance powers. Will what he's proposing put America at risk? Plus, newly released health care enrollment numbers raise new concerns over just who's signing up and send the administration scrambling to attract younger enrollees. And as the West gets set to implement the Iran nuclear accord, is the pact the surrender Tehran claims it is, or the window of opportunity President Obama hopes it will be? Welcome to the Journal editorial report. I'm Paul Gigot. President Obama laid out his plan to curb the National Security Agency's once secret surveillance programs on Friday, setting limits on the collection of foreign intelligence, appointing a public advocate for the FISA court, and making major changes to the agency's controversial collection of bulk telephone records. The president's speech comes after a months-long review of the agency's intelligence gathering practices, prompted by last year's leak of classified documents by former NSA analyst Edward Snowden. Joining the panel this week, Wall Street Journal columnist and deputy editor Dan Henninger, and editorial board members Joe Rago and Matt Kaminsky. So, Matt, what do you make of the proposals the president is making here?
I think he's gone very far toward unilaterally disarming the U.S. on surveillance. Basically, since the Edward Snowden revelations 6 months ago, he's tried to sort of straddle both lines, saying, you know, I want to satisfy the privacy concerns, but I want to keep our national security. But I think the steps he's taken, especially on neutering this telephone collection program
of metadata, which is not phone listening on a phone
not
calls,
at all.
But it's if you call Joe, your number, his number, how long the call lasted, that sort of thing.
Right. He's also extending essentially constitutional protections to foreigners by saying that, you know, their privacy concerns are as important as Americans' privacy concerns. I mean, the job of a spy agency is to spy on foreigners. And lastly, he's sort of complicating this already unwieldy judicial process of court oversight of the intelligence services. So there's more bureaucracy, more rules, and I think in the end, the U.S. is less safe.
Joe, is there any precedent for providing privacy protections anywhere around the world to foreigners? Let me put it another way. Do the Chinese give you privacy protections when they're listening in on your email?
Right. Now, there's
I don't think so.
There's no precedent here. And for all that Edward Snowden exposed, we haven't seen anything that violates international law, international norms. These are core...
Or the U.S. Constitution.
Right. Core constitutional national security powers that belong to the president. And it's really just a remarkable extension here.
Well, when you think about it, Paul, it has gotten to the level of absurdity. We're talking about extending the Privacy Act to Vladimir Putin and the Chinese, which is laughable. But the problem is, I think, that the president has allowed it to get to this point. We have been having this argument for nearly a year since Edward Snowden made these revelations. The Snowden revelations have continued. The president has
never...
They're
going to continue and continue and continue.
But President Obama has never stepped forward to make an argument on behalf of these surveillance techniques, why we do it. Instead, he allowed the problem to fester. It has gotten to this point. Then he appoints this commission to make recommendations to him, at which point both sides are totally dug in on this issue. And he's just made kind of a botch of it and come up with this set of solutions that aren't going to satisfy anyone.
But if the White House were here, they would say, look, I mean, what are we going to do? The politics of this are such that we have to make these concessions in order to forestall even a worse route on Capitol Hill. So we've got to do this. We're making tactical concessions. They're not that great. And in fact, the left is still going to dislike them, still going to criticize them, and even some libertarians. So, but we're trying to thread the political needle here. Give me a break.
He's leading from behind. He's on defense. He should have been on offense much earlier than this. And I think we could have had a more productive outcome if he had been on offense.
Matt, what's going to happen on Capitol Hill? I mean, you've got the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, Senate and House, Dianne Feinstein, and Mr. Rogers, Joe Rogers, that both say and defend these programs, say we need them. On the other hand, you've got other people who are much more critical. Who's going to win?
I think just you wait until Congress gets involved, because if the president, signs executive orders, those can be reversed very easily, either by him or by a future president. But if Congress, which has really shown itself that we want to get in this game too politically,
right.
They came very close last summer to killing the NSA program, and they're going to try again.
But what's going to happen?
I think they're very close to having, because the president's being pinched by both sides. You have the the traditional left and the kind of right fringes of libertarian who come in together, and together they might be very close to a majority.
Where is the center of gravity, Joe, among Republicans here? Because they're going to be crucial. If they go along with what the president proposes, this is a done deal. If they resist, you might have a chance of preserving these surveillance powers.
Well, I think that's the big question. A lot of the more mature members of the Republican Party are really resistant to the kind of proposals that Obama has come forward with. I think they're going to have to exert their influence if they have any hope of doing real lasting damage to the powers of the next president.
And I think I got that right. It's Mike Rogers, isn't it?
Mike Rogers.
So I apologize for that, Dan.
But
what do you think?
Well, what do you think our enemies are making of this? Al-Qaeda is the reason that we do this surveillance, and I think if I were an Al-Qaeda planner out there in Pakistan or in Yemen or Africa, I'd be dancing in the streets over these changes. It just simply opens the door a crack. And that's the reason you do these sorts of things. There is a threat, but it's hard to recognize it most of the time.
All right, Dan. When we come back, just